Hey guys, welcome back to Sed Speaks. Today I will be looking at the genre of dark academia and determine exactly what the genre is. To do this, I'll be looking at The Secret History by Donna Tartt and If We Were Villains by ML Rio, the quintessential dark academia books. If you guys have any suggestions for other dark academia books, feel free to leave them in the comments below and I'll check them out. You might also be wondering, why did I choose dark academia as a genre to look at? Number one, the aesthetic has always fascinated me, especially when I'm scrolling through Pinterest. And two, I'm an English major, so some of the concepts like beauty and tragedy, which are discussed in the books, are also discussions I've had in my classes. First, I'll show some visuals of what the dark academia aesthetic looks like so you can understand the general vibe. There's an earthy color palette with a lot of beige, darks, and whites, old library books, photography, chests, and old buildings, to name a few. Now here is a better explanation of the aesthetic. Dark academia's visuals stem primarily from upper-class European culture of the 19th century and American prep. The upper class of this time period emphasized a liberal education in which Latin, rhetoric, and classics were taught subjects. Many books in the genre actually take place in either a boarding school or a small college that focuses on the liberal arts and humanities. The two books that I'll be looking at actually take place in the latter. The Secret History is told in first person by Richard Papen, who had gone to Hampton College, an elite liberal arts school, and Richard and his friends were classics students. Years later, Richard reflects on what led to the murder of their friend Bunny, as well as the events that happened immediately after the murder. Meanwhile, If We Were Villains is told from the perspective of Oliver Marks after he was released from prison. Detective Colburn, who had put Oliver in jail, wanted to know the truth about what happened in his final year, and Oliver tells him the story. The novel jumps back and forth from the present, 2007, to the past, 1997, when Oliver and his friends were in their fourth year. Oliver and his friends had gone to the Delacour Classical Conservatory, a very specialized and highly competitive school that focuses on performing visual and liberal arts. He and his friends are Shakespearean actors and study his plays intensely. Similar to Secret History, one of his friends was murdered, and Oliver recounted the events that lead up to the murder as well as immediately after. Now, academia is often used to describe post-secondary institutions, so there is a heavy emphasis on education within the genre, particularly humanities and the arts. In these two books, there are heavy references on specific subjects. In The Secret History, because Richard and his friends were classics students, there's a lot of references to classical mythology as well as antiquity and heavy use of Latin and even Greek. Whereas in If We Were Villains, because Oliver and his friends are Shakespeare students, they heavily quote from his plays, and also there's discussions regarding genres of Shakespearean plays. And academia isn't just part of the book's aesthetics. It plays a huge role in how the characters interact with each other and how they perceive the world. There is a reason why the characters' debates and discussions regarding their specific subjects are included and detailed out. It's not just a subject to them, it's a lifestyle and an obsession, which somehow leads to the murder of a friend in each book.
It's an oversimplification of events, but yes.
The murder of a friend and the rest of their friend group covering it up is a similar plot in both books. And with the murder of a friend, whether it was planned like in The Secret History or accidental like in If We Were Villains, there is guilt involved. Each book explores the guilt that the characters face and how their actions haunt them even years down the road. It's fascinating to see how guilt makes these characters break and how they break. The dark academia in these books really focus on the human psyche and morality. It also focuses on the extremes of emotions like obsession, anger, jealousy, and even curiosity. Intense curiosity and obsession was what led Henry in The Secret History to perform a bacchanal with his friends, with the exception of Richard and Bunny. When Richard confronted Henry about his and their friends' recent odd behavior, Henry explained why he did the bacchanal. Well, as far as I knew, it hadn't been done for 2,000 years. After all, the appeal to stop being yourself, even for a little while, is very great, he said. To escape the cognitive mode of experience, to transcend the accident of one's moment of being. But one mustn't underestimate the primal appeal to lose oneself, lose it utterly, and in losing it, be born to the principle of continuous life outside the prison of mortality and time. So there is this pursuit of forbidden knowledge because a bacchanal is like going on a bender and then killing someone. But Henry didn't care about the murder part. He was just obsessed with being able to do a ritual that hadn't been done in millennia. The desire to know and experience this greatly outweighed the moral consequences that they would face. Bunny found out about the ritual and the murder, and because he was excluded from the ritual, he tormented all of them and even blackmailed them. Now, I don't know about you, but if someone I knew did a forbidden ritual and killed a man, accidentally or not, I would not blackmail them. So Bunny is killed by his friends because they didn't want to risk him telling anyone what they had done. Meanwhile, in If We Were Villains, intense jealousy and anger was what led to the fracturing of the group. Each of them have been typecasted into a certain role since their first 2 years in the program. Oliver as the sidekick, James as the hero, Richard as the tyrant, Meredith as the temptress, Ren as the ingenue, Alexander as the villain, and finally Philippa as the other sidekick / extra. Even outside of the plays, they kind of fit into these roles. Richard as the tyrant is used to being the unofficial leader of their group, and he's grown comfortable in his role both on and off stage. But then things changed during the Halloween performance of Macbeth. James, normally casted as the hero, is cast into the role of Macbeth, much to the anger and jealousy of Richard, who was relegated to a much smaller role. The changing of roles also symbolizes the shift in hierarchy within their group, which leads to Richard being angrier and more violent during rehearsals, especially towards Oliver and James. The rest of the group gets fed up with Richard's anger and violent tendencies, to the point that when they found Richard in the lake, his face smashed in and he was clinging to life by a thread, they agreed to not call for help until after he finally died. So while they didn't kill Richard on purpose, they all feel some sort of guilt for allowing him to die, but also a sense of relief because they're free from his tyranny. It's a contradiction of emotions. The relief that there's no more tyranny from Bunny and Richard, but also guilt because at the end of the day, the characters are just two groups of college students in their early 20s, and these were their friends whom they loved despite being horrible and unlikable. They are human, and guilt, I think, is a very human emotion. And that's what I think the genre explores, how the human psyche is affected by intense emotions. Now, a lot of books have quotes that are unforgettable, but Dark Academia almost takes that to the next level. I have some passages here from the books that I just have to share because not only are they unforgettable and they make me think and ponder, but they also make me feel some type of way. So let's start off first with some passages from The Secret History. Beauty is terror. Whatever we call beautiful, we quiver before it. And what could be more terrifying and beautiful to souls like the Greeks or our own than to lose control completely, to throw off the chains of being for an instant, to shatter the accident of our mortal selves. If we are strong enough in our souls, we can rip away the veil and look that naked, terrible beauty right in the face. Let God consume us, devour us, unstring our bones, then spit us out reborn. And that, to me, is a terrible seduction of Dionysiac ritual. Hard for us to imagine, that fire of pure being. And here's another one. There's nothing wrong with the love of beauty, but beauty, unless she is wed to something more meaningful, is always superficial. And here's the last one. Forgive me for all the things I did, but mostly for the ones that I did not. And here are some passages from If We Were Villains. Permit me to propose another question. What is more important, that Caesar is assassinated, or that he's assassinated by his intimate friends? That, Frederick said, is where the tragedy is. And here's another one. The thing about Shakespeare is, he's so eloquent. He speaks the unspeakable. He turns grief and triumph and rapture and rage into words, into something we can understand. He renders the whole mystery of humanity comprehensible. I stop, shrug. You can justify anything if you do it poetically enough. And here's another one. You can't quantify humanity. You can't measure it. Not the way you mean to. People are passionate and flawed and fallible. They make mistakes. Their memories fade. Their eyes deceive them. And the last one. how tremendous the agony of unmade decisions. So most of these passages focus on concepts like beauty, the essence of being, tragedy, human psyche, and intensity of emotions. But the last passages regarding unmade decisions and things not done, it's such a beautiful parallel between the two books about the choices that the characters made and what they didn't make. The regret, the wondering. I can't articulate clearly just how it makes me feel, but I think about those lines constantly now. So overall, dark academia as a genre features heavy references to the classics, both literature and antiquity. It features dark content like murder and intense violence. It explores the intensity of human emotions, what people can be capable of doing if they feel something strongly enough, and the complexity of these emotions as well as its effect on the human psyche. At the same time, it also makes you think about concepts like beauty, tragedy, and humanity in a different way. Dark academia is an intense and heavy genre, but also eye-opening at the same time. And that's a wrap on what is dark academia. Tune in next week for my video on Sky High. Thank you so much for watching my video, and please don't forget to like, comment, or subscribe.